Okay. Back on page 235, an adjective modifies or describes a noun or a pronoun. They make a sentence clearer or more interesting. On a diagram, you write the adjective below the noun that it modifies. So here's the diagram of this short sentence. White flowers bloomed. Flowers was the subject. Bloomed was the predicate or simple verb. You remember you have subject, then you have the line that goes all the way below the baseline, and bloomed is the predicate. Okay. White describes which word in that sentence? James? Flowers. So this is where an adjective goes. On a slanted line under the word it's describing. This is why when we were doing indirect objects, if you look down here, there's an example of an indirect object. I told you, make sure you make that extra line under there because when you start doing adjectives, you're going to get them confused if you don't. The indirect object goes on a straight line down here where mom is. That goes on a straight line. Adjectives are written on the slant. So white flowers bloomed. Now look at, come on. These are the ones that compare things, adjectives that compare things. Comparative adjectives compare two things. That's your ER words. Okay, if you're comparing two things, you just add ER or you use the word more or less. Okay, if it's a long word, you're not going to put ER on it. You're going to use more or less. Superlative adjectives, think of super. There's three or more things being compared there. And you're going to use either EST or most or least. Okay, that's the bigger group. Going down here, this tells you when to use ER, EST, when to use more, most, less, least. They end, use ER or EST with some two-syllable adjectives and with all one-syllable adjectives. So shorter words, use ER and EST. Use more and most or least, less and least with some two-syllable adjectives and all that have three or more. So basically that's shorter words versus longer words, okay? And here's examples. Large, larger, largest. And then down here, you wouldn't say, you've got wonderful. You don't say wonderfuler and wonderfulest. You say more wonderful and most wonderful. And down here, it even says never use ER or EST with more and most and less and least. So you would not say more larger. You wouldn't say more larger or most largest. Yeah, well, that's even a whole other. Now, one more facet of adjectives we need to look at is the predicate adjectives. When do we have predicate adjectives? What type of verb?
Predicate.
What kind of verb? Linking verb. So up here you've got a predicate adjective, happy. You've got your subject, linking verb, predicate adjective. Reminder, how do we write predicate adjectives on a diagram? The slanted line. They go on the main line with the subject and verb. They don't go under it. And they go with that slanted line. Whereas the direct object has the straight line. So here's a predicate adjective. Lisa looks happy. The slanted line points the predicate adjective toward the subject that it describes. Then we're looking here at this sentence. I gave what? There's subject, verb. I gave what? Anybody? Daisies. And so daisies is the direct object. See up there, direct object. I gave daisies to whom? Mom. So mom is the IO. So the only word you don't know is yellow. What is yellow? Adjective describing. It's an adjective describing what? Daisies. So looking at not talking to a neighbor, Ross Everett, looking at the diagram, we have subject, the line that goes all the way down past the baseline. Verb is gave, and then a straight line because Daisy's is a DO. Down here is our indirect object where it's a slant and another straight line. Write mom on the straight line. Under Daisy's, you're going to have the slanted line and you're going to write yellow on the slant because it's an adjective. Okay? It's a little bit more complicated when you throw adjectives in there. But later on, we're going to be putting in prepositional phrases as an adjective or as a modifier. That gets real fun. All right, so let's look at the guided practice together. Insects are fascinating. Cam, what is the adjective in sentence 1? Fascinating. So we're going to underline fascinating. What does fascinating describe, Cam? Insects. Draw a line, that's what the directions say, to the noun or pronoun that's being described. All right, number 2. Hard shells of insects are exoskeletons. Jonah, what is the adjective there? Hard. What is hard describing? Shells. Trick question. Is there another one? Is there? Well, but that's just of insects. Are is a linking verb, but exoskeletons is what?
PA.
No.
PN.
PN. Exoskeletons is a noun. So it's not another adjective. It's a predicate noun. You did good job. It's another noun. So the only adjective there is hard, describing shells. All right. Underline the correct form of the adjective. Queen ants are more large or larger, Kelsey Woods? Larger. Underline larger. Ladybugs are more colorful or colorfuler than mayflies, Silas? More colorful. All right. Now we've got to label the sentence and then we're going to diagram it. So help me out. Where's my subject in sentence 5, Ava? Dad is the subject. What's the verb, Bishop? Bought. All right, it's an action verb. So do I have a DO, Boyd?
Yes.
And what is my DO?
Jewelry.
Jewelry, good. Dad bought jewelry for who? Monica? Mom is the IO. So gold is what?
Wait, what is an IO? Adjective.
Adjective. And IO is, it answers the question to or for whom or what. Dad bought jewelry for who? For mom. So mom's the indirect object. Gold is an adjective. So here's how we diagram. Subject first, so that's dad. Copy this. Then you draw your long line that goes below the baseline to separate subject and predicate. Dad bought, because that's our verb, our predicate. He bought what? He bought jewelry. Straight line because it's a DO. Jewelry. IO goes where? Anybody raise your hand? Kelsey Bruce? Under the verb bought. Slant and then straight. You're going to write on the straight part, not on the slanted part for the IO. Write mom. I'll back up after I write. There's your IO, mom. And what word is gold describing? Jewelry. So we're going to put a slanted line under jewelry, and we're going to write gold on that slanted line. That's where that adjective goes, right here. Gold. That is how you diagram sentence 5. So here's what we're doing now for the rest of class. And if you work and don't goof off, you should have time to finish it. Page 236, independent practice, and then get on your Chromebook and do the apply and write on your Chromebook. And then there is an EP, okay? At the end of the EP, there are 2 sentences that you will diagram. I'm going to pass out a sheet of notebook paper. I want you to put your name on it and diagram on the paper and turn it in to me, okay? Everything else will be done on the Google Classroom, but I want a piece of paper with the diagrams on them because it's a little easier for y'all to draw it that way, and it's easier for me to grade it that way. All right, so get started, page 236, and then Google Classroom.